thanks to Wally for this lovely opportunity to promote the books that are here on sale in Red Books. My name is Deirdre McGarry, and this is a poetry book called Be Like Water, and I wrote it last year as I was recording my thoughts and feelings going through the journey of dementia with my husband, who's now in long-term care. And I'm going to read you the first poem, which is the title of the book. It's called Be Like Water. Be like water. If you want to live close to dementia, you have to be like water. You have to move without restrictions and shift shape to adapt to change. You have to lose your spine and your bones, your muscles of resistance. You have to hone your soft flesh of acceptance. You have to absorb your sadness and shed your tears of grief. You have to flow, and you have to hold his body to let it float in trust. You have to seep into crevices to find a way out of situations that feel hopeless. And you have to flush away all your resentment and rage at the unfairness that steals your lover, your spontaneity, your banter, the dance steps of your relationship. You have to wash all that clean. You have to be like water. You have to be like rain. Then you'll see the rainbows. This book is €8. It's a beautiful present for somebody who's going through this process at the moment. It's been very well received. Lots of people have said they identify with the feelings that I've expressed. It's a very, I tried to be very open and honest. A lot of this poetry was written in my journal as a kind of therapy for me before it went to print.
Hi everyone, Mary Beary is my name, and I'm delighted to be here in Wally's Red Books here in Wexford Town. Just talking a bit about my book that I had wrote. It speaks of addiction and mental health. I lost my son Martin to a drug overdose. So I've been getting this book around to services, to schools, colleges, addiction centres and mental health. So I'm just really trying to promote my book, and it's on sale here in Wally's for €7, and the proceeds will go into publishing more books so I can work my way up maybe through each county. So I will just read one or two poems from the book. The book is done through poetry and photographs. So I'll read this one, and it's called Addict. I look in the mirror at what I've become. I'm an addict, and some say I'm scum. Am I still human, this shell of a person? My head's in turmoil, my body's in pain, but I need my drugs, my drink, my shame. This wasn't the life I wanted to live. I also had dreams, I had so much to give. But I took the wrong path, got lost on the way. Now every tomorrow is just like today. Are my dreams now forgotten? Can I still have some hope? Or do addicts not matter? Are they just left to cope? So many questions spinning round in my head. Will I survive? Can I live? Or am I already dead? I will show you one of the photographs in my book here. It's a pretty bad photograph, and it's my son when he was on life support, and this would have been the first time that he would have overdosed, and he actually went on to survive this. So I have wrote a poem called Drugs. You took from me my eldest son. He chose your path to take. Although he tried to break the chain, he paid for his mistake. It took him for a terrible ride, consuming him with pain. I watched him try to fight you, but you had everything to gain. So time and time again you win. You're the master and the boss. You push so hard, you set your sights. No compromise, only loss. So think before you step on board this demon in the night. It rips your soul and breaks your heart, no matter how you fight. So I find that poem is a very difficult poem. As Martin did try his best to fight his addiction, he went into rehab and he done very well. But unfortunately, maybe 3 months after that, he overdosed again and he died this time. So thank you for listening to me, and hopefully you will support me by buying this book. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
So, John Atkinson is my name. Thanks to Wally and Red Books for all the help they've given us budding writers. This is our first book, my first book anyway, ever written. It's been a few years in the making. It's a crime book, because they say starting your first book with a crime book is usually a bit of a formula to it, and it's a bit of style, and there's always a mystery about it, so it's a good book to start writing with. So it's called Professor Harriet. It's set a bit in Dublin, in Trinity College, and it also vanishes around the world to places like Seville and Moscow. So you get a bit of an international tour in it as well, which is good fun. I'll just read you a little bit from it, if you will. This is chapter 19. I tend to write very short chapters so to keep you moving, and I only write in one direction from the beginning to the end. I don't flashback or anything like that. Not a good enough writer for all that, but nonetheless you should enjoy the book. I enjoyed writing it, so I hope you enjoy reading it. So this is chapter 19. The Irish diplomats get involved. Colin Delaney listened to his immediate superior, the second secretary, as he detailed his tasks for today. Colin was not too fond of the boss, nor of the work he did in the Irish embassy in Madrid. He spent most of his days talking to people who've lost passports in swimming pools or had their wallets stolen when they fell asleep on the outdoor patio after too many happy hour cocktails. It was not the life he expected when he signed up to work in the Department of Foreign Affairs. He believed his work would involve high diplomacy and helping to prevent famine and war. The regaining of the reality of organising coffee breaks for trade delegations and emergency passports was far more mundane. Still, as he listened, he thought this new task sounded interesting. There was an Irish professor from Trinity College under arrest in Seville. They were investigating her for a suspected murder. The second secretary asked him to travel there to meet her and to collect information and to see if there was anything to be done. He was to stay until they formally charged her or released her. The Irish diplomats knew the arrest would be on the front page of the newspapers back home, and they needed to issue the standard response. The Irish embassy is aware of the situation and is providing diplomatic support to our citizen. He heard this type of statement on the radio during the morning news in his early life, and he thought it implied a heavyweight response. He imagined an army of diplomats leaping into action. It disappointed him to learn it was just him, and he had to go by economy train, and he was to keep all receipts and to be sure not to offend the police. He was to bring their standard embassy goodie bag comprising crisps, some crackers and cheese, a few stamps, writing paper, and a pen from the embassy. His job, and his boss repeated this over and over, was to ensure the lady in question was given a lawyer and a translator. He was to remain there until he was certain the authorities charged her or released her before the 3-day deadline permitted under Spanish law. He remembered the parting words of the second secretary. You want to be a diplomat? This is your first real chance. Do not mess it up. If the Spanish police think this woman killed someone, then she probably did. They are fantastic at their work and very thorough. Give her the goodie box. Ask her if we can call anyone for her. Check she has professionals appointed. Wait and see if they charge or release her, and then get back here. If you do any more than that, you will issue replacement passports to hungover tourists for the rest of your career. Do not talk to the media and ring me every day at noon. Keep your expenses down. His boss reminded him, money does not grow on trees. Watch every penny. Colin headed back to his flat to pack a small bag and get on the next train to Seville. So that's just one of the characters in it. The main protagonist is Professor Harriet, which is what the book is called. She's a research scientist from Trinity. And the main antagonist is a Russian lady from Moscow called Oksana. So I hope you enjoy it, and thanks to Wally for promoting it and selling it and stocking it here for me. It's also available on that dreaded place called Amazon, either as an ebook or as an order book. So that's all I really want to say. Come in, enjoy the book, enjoy the group of people we have in Wexford here. It's a great community of writers, and it's a great bookshop. Cheers, Robbie. Thank you very much.
Okay, my name is Des Kiely. I've written a series of books entitled Fascinating Wexford History. Is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah. This is volume 5, obviously 5th in the series, and it's the last in the series too, because I've run out of fascinating stories. believe it or not. So I've written a total of 6 books in 6 years. The first one was Famous Wexford People in History. I opened this book with a chapter on Pierce bicycles, and I close with the amazing renovation story on Sigginstown Castle. But I'd like to talk about a different chapter in this book. It's a history of Bargy Castle down in Tecumseh. I stole the title for this story from John le Carré's brilliant Cold War novel, Tinker Tailor, Soldier Spy, and I called this chapter Raider, Rebel, Soldier Spy, the intriguing story of Bargy Castle. I think there might be enough in this for a mini series on Netflix, because the Raider was one John Rossiter. He was a 12th century Anglo-Norman, and the Rossiters built the original Bargy Tower House about 500 years ago. Following the Cromwellian invasion in 1649, Bargy was awarded to a member of his military named Captain William Ivory. Now, not all of his troops who were granted swathes of land in Ireland wanted to live here, so like many, Captain Ivory sold the property to an Englishman, Ambrose Harvey. Now we're coming to the rebel. His great-grandson was the rebel in the title, Bagenal Harvey, the 1798 leader who was hanged on Wexford Bridge. Bargy Castle was confiscated by the authorities and used as a military barracks until about 1808, when it was returned to Bagenal's brother James, who was living in London when the rebellion had broken out. Then we get to the soldier. The castle was next purchased by Thomas Paget in 1947 and sold again in 1960 to Sir Eric de Burgh, a retired British Army general who was born in Naas in County Kildare. And the backstory to the de Burghs, if I can find the story now in my book, I'll just read a little piece just to give a taste, I suppose, of how the book is written anyway. After attending boarding school, Sir Eric's daughter Maeve took a job with the Ministry of Information in London at the end of the Second World War. As well as making the tea, she was engaged in wrapping bundles of magazines such as Punch and the Illustrated London News for posting to Poland. It was hoped that the availability of such publications might persuade people in Poland to resist the march of communism from the Soviet Union. Maeve was lodging with an Argentine lady who one day invited her to a tea party. It was there that she met her future husband, Colonel Charles Davison. In World War II, he had parachuted into Burma as part of V-Force, an organisation engaged in intelligence gathering and guerrilla warfare against the Japanese invaders. He was engaged in sabotage and blowing up enemy supply routes. Davison was, to quote Maeve, a dashing, handsome and intriguing figure. I didn't expect him to notice me because I thought I was plain and fat. But he did, which was rather good and surprising. We were married 6 months later. Davison himself had grown up in Argentina, and Maeve moved back there with him, where their 2 children, Richard and Christopher, were born. Now we come to the spy. After a few years living in Argentina, Maeve longed to return to Europe in the 1950s. Her husband, Charles, was offered an army posting in Malta. In fact, it was intelligence work at the height of the Cold War. He was involved in training Albanian saboteurs who were planning to overthrow the communist regime in Albania. Maeve and the children joined him in Malta, where she worked at encoding and decoding secret messages to and from Albania. But the young Albanians were betrayed by the infamous double agent Kim Philby, who later defected to the Soviet Union. On the return to Albania, the young men they had trained were all arrested and executed. The Davisons next moved to Nigeria and later to the Belgian Congo, but Maeve wanted to settle back in Ireland to rear her 2 young boys. They bought the then run-down Bargy Castle along with Maeve's father Eric in 1960 and turned it into a hotel business to generate some income. Charles bought his son Christopher a cheap guitar, and he played to entertain guests at evening sing-songs. Richard went into the legal profession, and Christopher ventured into the music business as Chris de Burgh, using his mother's maiden name. To date, he has sold over 45 million albums worldwide. His daughter Rosanna became Ireland's first winner of Miss World 20 years ago in 2003. Maeve is now 97 and still lives in Bargy Castle. Lovely lady who I've met. So that's my contribution. It's the last, as I say, the last in the series. I'm a good way through fascinating Wicklow history at the moment. The fun is in the research, travelling around the county, meeting people and photographing important and sometimes forgotten historic items. And I'll quote Nicky Rossiter, as he said to me recently, it's an addiction.
Hello, my name is Arton and I'm the author of Kaleidoscopic Times and 2 poetry books, Sunset and Indigo Corners and Spirit of Our Time, Zeitgeist. But I'm going to read an excerpt of the prologue from Kaleidoscopic Times because it was launched last Friday in Red Book Scory. The novel is set in London in 1991 in a place called Stoke Newington, and it's set in a squat with 6 really colourful characters who are quite nonconformist, and they're all bohemians, and it's all about the art, music and rave scene in London in the 90s. And there's a lot of references to the personalities of these people, and there's a love triangle, there's a druid ceremony in Cavan, and there's lots of different dynamics. It's very quite counterculture, and it's definitely an unconventional book, and it's worth reading because it's so different. And I'll just start reading the prologue now. The glitter ball, an artefact from her past, a somewhat sentimental remnant of her time in the squat, dangled from the ceiling like a twirling, swirling trapeze artist in midair. Memory splintered in slow motion as the glitter ball was spinning, while coloured lights of indigo, blue, green, yellow and pink were emblazoned chaotically on the magnolia walls of her aunt's cottage. Stained glass windows filtered the morning sunlight as though through a prism, while wind chimes blew in the furtive breeze with clinging, clanging sounds that reverberated around the room. Incense plumes curled in the air, invoking more memories of different times. This place was far from holy or reverential, but it was sacred to her. Ballymore was where Sinead Shaw was born and bred, her go-to place when all hell broke loose elsewhere. Just how long she'd be there, she really didn't know. Now her life was dangling in mid-air like a glitter ball trapeze artist. The rainbow, visible from the cottage, descended into the sea, while waves gnawed away the sandy shoreline. Time could be a friend or an enemy, depending on the entities and calamities of the mind. Tender, smooth and sublime as raw silk, a rough fleece recently shorn from a sheep, or somewhere in between. Sinead was currently lost, suspended in time, somewhere on the precipice of discovering, on the edge of a universe, floating in some obscure, blurred world. But at least she felt refreshed after a good night's sleep, fresh energy pulsating through her veins as she walked energetically down the pathway towards the gate where the postbox stood. She had arrived home from London 3 weeks ago, into the longest, most overcast and confusing 3 weeks of her life. The not knowing added to the confusion that dominated her self-imposed isolation. Austin was miles away in Dublin. The people of Ballymore seemed like parochial aliens to her, slaves to routine gossip merchants and the pubs. She had in many ways outgrown Ballymore, yet it was still her place of refuge. Though Sinead felt like an exile in her native village, she would not trade her soul for acceptance. She had returned like a swallow with a broken wing and a heart in smithereens. Yet her memories of her time in London seduced her into feeling like a woman who had lived and loved and was worthy of her place on this planet. Distracted, she forgot for a split second where she was, until the robust shock of ice-cold blast jolted her back to reality. She put her hand in the postbox and felt something cylindrical yet eerily familiar. It could, given the circumstances, have been a hand grenade or a bomb, or sage wrapped in tinfoil or a telescope. There was only one way to find out. She pulled the object out of the postbox and saw that it was not wrapped and there was no postmark on it. Sinead instantly knew what it was. Her heart briefly danced a speedy, frenzied flamenco and then came to a sudden halt. She inhaled a deep breath of the salty air, and she suddenly knew that he, Godfrey Selby, must actually be in Ballymore. Okay, so that's an excerpt from the prologue. So I hope you enjoyed listening to it. Happy Christmas and take care. Bye. Bye.
Hi, I'm Margaret Hawkins, and I'm delighted to be here today with Wally and Red Books and with all the local authors talking about their work. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to do that. I'm here to talk about my own books. I have 3 books. Restless Spirit, the story of Rose Prynne, which is about a woman who was incarcerated in St. Senans. I have this one, which is Deny Me Not, about a woman pursuing her father for recognition. That was actually triggered by a family story. And I have this one, Freewheeling Up the Hill, which is a bit of fun, serious and not so serious, and I love making people laugh. So for that reason, I'm going to read one of the poems in it, and it's called Red Shoes Go to Lourdes. There's a mixture, as I said, of serious and light, and I called it Freewheeling Up the Hill because Saturdays are great days for freewheeling. And if writing is going well, it actually feels like there's no effort in it, and that you're freewheeling up the hill. So Eva Newman of blacksoda.com designed the cover, and I was delighted the book made it to the shortlist for the Carousel Aware Prize just recently, so that was wonderful. So this is just a little flavour of it. It's called Red Shoes Go to Lourdes. My mother was in a nursing home, and she, when she was nearly 80, she decided she needed a pair of red shoes. It was something she'd never had, and she was going to have them before she died. When she died, the red shoes were sitting there, and we passed them on to a family friend who was delighted to get the red shoes. So this is it, Red Shoes Go to Lourdes. She'd always wanted them, a pair of red shoes to banish the blues, add glamour to her feet, and she got them then at 81, the time had come. And she wore them often, happy with her splash of colour as she put one foot in front of the other, testing the corridors of her world until the space between excursions stretched and the red shoes eventually sat idle in a press. Until months later they were passed on to a friend who'd always wanted, guess what, a pair of red shoes to banish the blues, add glamour to her step. And she wore them to Lourdes, up steps of bus and onto plane, basilica bound, the red shoes, her splash of colour among the pilgrims' feet. So that's just a flavour of it. It's a mixture of serious and light, and I hope you enjoy them. And thanks again to Wally and everybody here who's brought all their lovely books today. Happy Christmas.
My name is Liam Ryan, and this is the second edition of my book on the land war in the barony of Shelburne. It deals mainly with 4 big events that happened in the barony of Shelburne: Whitechurch, Ferret, Foley's Fort, and the Battle of Coolrow in Ballycallan. So I'm going to read a poem about the Battle of Coolrow, which was written by Michael O'Brien, and it deals with the siege of Somers's Fort when the battering ram was defeated for the first time in Ireland. The men from Coolrow built a huge embankment around the house of Tom Somers, so the battering ram wasn't able to they needed level ground, and they couldn't use the battering ram to knock down the house. So this deals with the whole events of that battle. And I suppose the canon, I should clarify, the canon that's mentioned in the poem is actually Canon Doyle, who was known as the Land League priest. So, the Battle of Coolrow. Up spoke Thomas Somers and said, "Now, my Wexford boys, to do a deed I'm willing, which will your hearts rejoice. If you will lend a hand with me and the bailiffs overthrow, we'll prove the fire of 98 is still burning in Coolrow. We are the boys of Wexford who fought with heart and hand to guard the homes of our fathers built and died for Ireland. Then let us be united and triumphant we'll be seen. On the mountain tops of Ireland we'll plant the flag of green. Then up spoke Bartle Rochford, saying, I am a smith by trade. My father was a farmer, long in his grave he's laid. The house that he was born in, the bailiffs they laid low. With all my heart I'll give my hand to the battle in Coolrow. Into the forge then Bartle went, and the anvil loud did ring, and with his strong stout arm the heavy sledge did swing. And as he shaped the iron, the flying sparks did glow. Oh, I wish to God it was a pike, said Bartle of Coolrow. They barred the windows and the doors, they banked the house all round, with banks of earth 10 feet high from where it touched the ground. 'Twas sloped so neat and gentle that the least touch of a blow put all the peelers reeling back that morning in Coolrow. The peelers scaled the ladders and the battering ram they tried. Jim Ryan beleaguered to himself, 'twas soon the ram he spied. The ram, says Jim, has got the flu, some sheep dip on him throw. 'Twill deluge all the worms, my boys, this morning in Coolrow. The soldiers then fixed bayonets, bright flashing in the sun, and tried the steep embankment till they thought the fort was won. 'Twas then that they discovered no cowards were their foe, for they put them reeling back again that morning in Coolrow. Into the front our cannon steps, and said, now boys attend. You know that I have been to you a counsellor and a friend. You've done a deed for Ireland, and while Slaney's waters flow, we'll ne'er forget the fight you fought this morning in Coolrow.
Hello, I'm Mick Carty. I am the author of this book, Sportsman's Mick. It even feels strange to be saying I'm author, to be honest. But anyway, I just want to kind of go through a few pages with the book a little bit. You know, it's all to do with my time that I was connected with sport and that I was involved with teams of different kinds, which was in GA, which was in soccer, which was in skittles, and which was in playing pool. And over the years, I have been involved with so many different people at different times. So just first one, page 18. I think it's an interesting picture there of the St Anne's Junior B football. It's the first game I played in the league final. I played in, and there's a few interesting characters. Actually, a couple of characters passed on since then. That's 1984. Then I go on to say page 26. There's another picture. That's just a picture. Oh, sorry, that's a picture 26. Sorry, yeah. Oh yeah, of St Anne's 1993. Now that's a photo taken from the paper. It was a league match. Oh, you can see I'm on the right hand side there. I was really in top form that time. I could see good shape that time. I was in good form for playing football anyway. But that picture, night anyhow was anyway. And then we'll just move on to page 32. As another junior, it's 1993 as well. Now I didn't play in this, and it's in the book why I didn't play. I got an injured shoulder, but I played a big part in that was a district final replay against the Fittons. We won by a point with a last minute goal from Mahi Roach scored with the ball hit off 3 different lads before it went in the net. It was a jammy goal, but it was a goal, and we won the match anyway on that one. Then I just want to go to probably in managerial side of things, with the Neil O'Sullivan Cup, page 43, with Kilmore United. That was in 2012. And then I think the next page, or soon after now, where are we now? Timon United then the following year won the Neil O'Sullivan Cup with Timon. I suppose to be honest, that is probably my managerial biggest achievement, to win a double 2 years in a row, and I win it with 2 different clubs, which is a big thing to do. I know we joked about, Wally, that sure, how would any manager can win 2 in a row, because you with 2 different clubs, usually when a manager wins with one team, he usually stays with him and tries to retain the cup the following year. But in the book, it gives the reasons why that didn't happen. So one of those things. So there's a couple of nice pictures on it there. Just going through. That's to do with the Legends team of Faston Rovers after 20 years. That was the 2009, just before I actually left Fastnet, and we done a 20 years thing with the Legends team. Myself, Frank Jones, Liam Murphy and Molly Keogh, rest in peace, that were involved with Fastnet for the 20 years. Came up with the 11. Of course, not everybody would have been happy with that final 11, but this is the 11 we came up with anyway for the 20 years thing. Just going through more. That's just a picture of in the Legend there with photographs. At the time I was chairman. Actually, I wasn't manager that year. I probably was involved with the football at the time, junior football. Usually, when I was chairman of the soccer club, maybe I might, and I wasn't managing. I usually be managing the junior football team or being involved with the senior team or something. And that one. And that's a picture of Timon United up in Dublin in the 2013-14 season, playing St Kevin's Boys in the Leinster Junior Cup. I think it was the last 16. So that was quite a good achievement that year. We won a good few rounds to get to that stage. That's really... Oh, I have to show... Of course, this have to come into this picture. This is a unique picture. And first time ever, us 3 brothers came together to play. Ray, the brother, the tallest brother there, has played pool over the years. He hasn't played any other sport. While Leo, up to last year, never played any competitive sport. I just got him in halfway through last year to come in. It's in the book how that came about as well. But he's playing again this year, and he's improved immensely since then. And he's a big factor in the pool team this year as well. So that was a very unusual situation. And this is an old picture, 1982, of a few characters that are passed away since then. Father there, Frank Jordan, Father Byrne, and the 2 Colfers for Frawley's a character were runners up. That was 1982. Myself and Gerard Jordan there would have been just 14 years of age. That's we're just gone 14. I think it would have been 82, yeah, it would have been, yeah, that's right, yeah, 14. And just to go through last little bit there, yeah, I have to mention this. It's my colleague in Vitas. I was with him for 2 years. Damien Quigley was a tutor, and he has put a nice bit there in front there, him and Jim McGuire, about an event that I done with them in the 2nd year, and I'd be nearly embarrassed to read it, to be honest, but that's what they put there, and I just said, oh, fair enough, that's what you thought at the time, so away with it, and that was it on that one. So that's it, and that's just a picture of the last one, in the first Skittle title I won. We first in 10 in a row in the Skittles. First was in 2014 against John Mackey. John is now over 8 years of age, an absolute great Skittle thrower in his day, still throwing Skittles. And that's one thing about Skittles, it can be played from anywhere from 12, 13 years of age up till until you have your accuracy. You need strength, you just need accuracy really than anything on that one. Okay, thanks very much, Wally, and thanks for the books.